Hello, folks. This is Jackie Sawicki with the Texas and the National Coalition Against Crypto Mining, here with another Proof of Waste podcast. Today, we're going to be talking to Cheryl Shadden of Hood County. Cheryl lives across the street from a 300 megawatt facility owned by Marathon Digital. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us today. And can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about how you came into the fight against crypto mining.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for having me. So when the noise got so monstrous here last winter, I decided that I would do something about it. And so I started flooding social media and asking people what was occurring with the neighbors in the community. And I found out so many of the people in this area are ill from this. It's not just the noise that they hear. They're not sleeping, they're physically sick, GI problems, headaches, sleep disturbances, all kinds of medical issues. And then I thought, oh my God, there really is a problem here. So I started trying to do the best that I could, not knowing what to do. And through talking to people at work and friends and coworkers and community members, I found you. And that was just a total game changer for my community.
Can you tell the audience a little bit more about the operation that is in your neighborhood? Tell them about Wolf Hollow, about Marathon.
So Wolf Hollow Power Plant is owned by Constellation Energy. They're the landholders at this complex across the road from me. So Marathon Digital was allowed to set up shop there and plug in all of their miners, and they get all of their electricity from Wolf Hollow. They don't own the property that their miners are on. They just set up shop there. And of course, they get to buy their electricity at bargain basement prices. And as the community started complaining about noise from this complex, of course, the owners of the land, Constellation Energy, did nothing. As the communities complained and complained and complained, they've done nothing. So they're pretty bad landlords. In the process of all of this, when Compute North initially got started with this, Marathon Digital lended Compute North $67 million to get this party started. And in the process of that, going to Generate Capital, US Bitcoin, and now Marathon, last year they put in a partial sound barrier on the east side of this cryptocurrency mine. All that sound barrier has done is propel noise and sound and noise waves even worse across this county and the county south of me. It's a megaphone effect. And then you look at the topography of this area, it's a river basin. And so this noise and these sound waves propel along this river basin, hitting communities 10 miles away in either direction. And so a lot of people hear this, various degrees of sickness in this area, and we've had enough.
And can you tell folks at home about the first time I actually met you when we went to that town hall meeting at that barn? Can you tell them about all of the comments that the locals had made about what they were hearing and feeling from this Marathon Digital mine?
So beyond headaches, dizziness, vertigo, sleeplessness, anxiety, heart palpitations, high blood pressure. Some of my neighbors have had bad cardiovascular issues. One of my neighbors had his electrical system in his ventricles short out this last February. He had to be resuscitated multiple times. Ranchers in this area have lost wildlife. They would hunt for deer and rabbits and doves to feed their family on their ranches, and they're not there any longer. All of the wildlife in this area has left. Texas Parks and Wildlife has done no impact studies. Constellation Energy has done no impact studies. Marathon Digital certainly is not going to do any impact studies. And so I went door to door, knocking on doors, just letting people know about this town hall meeting that you so graciously came to. And there was standing room only. We had 75 to 100 people that were there at this meeting that were pretty upset. They've lost property value. They can't sell their homes. They have to disclose all of this noise that's hitting this area 24/7. So everybody in that room had loss.
And can you tell us about what you have personally witnessed and heard since the Bitcoin mine moved in as directly connected to this power plant? How has the power plant fared in all of this?
So according to statistics, prior to this Bitcoin mine ramping up and really cranking up this noise and the power drain that they put on our grid, they've blown valves 4 times. When I say blown valves, it's an explosion that rockets this area of the county. The last time they blew valves was after Hurricane Beryl came in through Texas, taking out a lot of the grid south of here. And they blew 4 to 6 valves one morning. Explosions that wake everybody up out of a dead sleep, scare livestock, and are certainly horribly upsetting. We truly think that the power plant is going to explode when these things happen. So the power plant's not faring well. They're having a hard time pulling this kind of a load. Not only that, but since this cryptocurrency mine has gone in, our emissions here in this county have doubled. Our number one emissions producer here in this county is Wolf Hollow Power Plant, owned by Constellation Energy. So there's a big problem here. Now Constellation Energy has requested a permit from Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to increase air pollution in this area, increase air pollution, emissions. They want to put in a third gas power plant across the street to power this cryptocurrency mine and the grid. And we have a public hearing coming up in the beginning of September. We're going to be asking for a contested hearing as well, so that will be judicial. We've gone to the Texas Senate, some of my group members, to testify. We're planning on going again here in a couple of weeks to testify about how strong the grid is here in Texas. If these valves blowing are any indication, they used to blow one valve, every couple of months. Now, this last time, they've blown 4 to 6 valves.
And circling back really quick about the medical issues, if you don't mind speaking a little bit about your background, because these medical issues, you can speak to that as a medical professional, can you not?
Correct. So I have multiple degrees. I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist, so I provide anesthesia for a living. So I'm an advanced nurse practitioner in the operating room. And so all of these people that have all of these problems, none of these people had these issues before this started. You have people that never had hypertension now that have developed hypertension. You have people that are throwing big blood clots to their pulmonary vascular system and been in ICU for up to 2 weeks. Another neighbor, like I said, has had his electrical system and his ventricle short out and had to be resuscitated multiple times before they finally got a pacemaker in to pace his ventricles. Other neighbors have had dizziness and blackout episodes while they're driving, wrecked multiple cars, had their car insurance taken from them, had their driver's license taken from them. And I'm talking about people in their 40s and 50s. I don't mean 85-year-olds. I mean younger people. Another neighbor, her daughter is 6 years old and is having seizures. She's got hearing loss as well and is facing surgery. So there are a lot of health problems in this area with children on up.
Thank you for that. And can you talk a little bit about your advocacy work that you're doing, and where we are so impressed, in awe. You are an incredible force of nature. Hood County is so lucky to have you, and we are honored to be able to support you in any way we can. Can you talk about some of the things, the petitions, town halls, that kind of stuff that that Hood County residents have been working towards and working on?
So my commissioner, Nanette Samuelson, and my precinct chair, Shannon Wolf, and then there are other commissioners in this area and precinct chairs also. We've had multiple town hall meetings. We've got another town hall meeting coming up in the end of August. And certainly high on the list of those topics is this cryptocurrency mine and the harm that's occurred in the county. So I personally drove around a petition for TCEQ to get this public hearing going. We'll also get a contested hearing. The public hearing, we had over 50 people that signed on that. We also had a House representative in Johnson and Somerville County, Dwayne Burns, that signed on to that. That's primarily what got us this public hearing. We've also had a health petition that Joe Weber and Shannon Wolf and Frank Moffitt got started. There are over 1,000 signatures on that. That's been handed to our county commissioner's court. That's been handed to our local senator, Brian Birdwell, and our House representative here, Shelby Slauson. That will also be hitting Texas legislator. We're going to be delivering that to some of the legislators in this area. And eventually it'll come out with the media as well. So we've got a lot of things going on regarding to that. And, you know, a lot more community support. You know, a lot of these folks aren't able to stand up and be warriors for themselves. So there's a group of us that do that for them, and we're trying to help everybody.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's been really hopeful. It makes me feel better about humanity because this industry has been it has made me think it's like so negatively about how business operates in Texas and stuff, to see locals standing up and speaking out against this, and to see some of your local representatives like Nanette Samuelson and Chip Jolson in your neighboring county. It is really, really heartening to see local policymakers and legislators stand up for the little guy instead of just, going to bat for big business. I like to also point out almost all of these Bitcoin miners did not originate in Texas. These are outside companies coming into our counties, going to places they know are vulnerable, that have little to no regulations. They're driving up our bills. They're wasting so much water. And they're destabilizing the grid. They are not positively contributing to the local community's lives. And yet they get so much support from some of our state leaders like Greg Abbott, who invited them here, Ted Cruz, who is now mining Bitcoin. So it is kind of interesting to see, like, the Republican Party on the local level in Hood County is against this, but the state level Republicans are very much for it. So do you have any comments? I mean, we're nonpartisan, but we still have to address the elephant in the room, which is this: Texas didn't become #1 in Bitcoin mining out of a vacuum. It happened because Texas leaders invited them here.
There, you know, in all of these states, there's no rules and regulations. Once you leave a city's limits, there are no rules and regulations. Anybody that wants to come in, regardless of what kind of an actor they are or whether they're, you know, beneficial to the community or not, they can just set up shop and just go about their business. There is absolutely nothing that stops them except lawsuits. Certainly, you know, there are a group of people here in this county and the county south of us in Somerville County that are trying to work on legislative change to get some protection for the communities. This community is sick. And it doesn't matter whether you're red, you're blue, this community is sick. And, you know, to Governor Abbott and Ted Cruz, if you don't believe how sick we are, come stay with me. You have an open invite. Come stay with me. Come stay with any of my community members and see what we're going through. I mean, just for instance, in addition to all of the health problems, everybody here has a property value loss. Nobody in this area could sell their homes or properties. People tell us, just sell your house, move out, just move. Well, we're going to have to go bankrupt to move. There's no way you could sell your home and go live somewhere else because your value of your home is absolutely worthless. Nobody in their right mind would live here in this area. You're going to take a massive hit on this. Now, could the power company or the cryptocurrency mine buy out all the homes in this area for market value? Absolutely, they could. Have they offered? No, they have not. No, they don't think that there's anything that we can do, so they don't want to do that. They think that the communities in rural Texas and rural Arkansas and all of these other rural communities where they set up, that there is nothing we can do to fight them.
Yeah, that also really bothers me because you've been in Hood County for, I think you said 35, 40 years. Why should you move? You were there first. Right. You were there before the power.
All of us in this area, other than one neighbor, one or two neighbors, we were all here long before these power companies set up and before this crypto mine came in. All of us were here. And these are our homes. This is our community. We're living here because we want to live out in the country with peace and quiet and have farm animals and dogs and cats and not on a zero lot line in the city. And our quality of life has absolutely plummeted tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a common, you will hear this in our interview with the Nebraska folks. You'll hear it with our interview with the Arkansas folks. They prey on rural areas that have little to no regulation. They make people's lives absolutely miserable. They destroy property value, and then they really think they can just get away with it. And that is why the National Coalition is advocating for strong federal regulation of this industry, because we can't play whack-a-mole and hope, and try to attack this one county at a time, one state at a time. We need a federal regulation that says you can't torture people with noise pollution. And if you're going to use so much electricity, you shouldn't foist those costs onto poor people, onto single moms, onto seniors living on a fixed income. They need to pick up the tab. Can you talk at all about, I think you might have said briefly, but can you talk, and this might be anecdotal, but can you talk about your electricity bills pre and
Absolutely. Everybody in this area, our electrical bills have tripled. One family that lives down the road this last year, during the winter, their electrical bills were so high that they had to call the electric company and make payments on their electric bill because they couldn't afford their heating bill this last winter. And that's ridiculous when that didn't happen the prior winter, to these people in this area. So it's not just me, the people that live directly across the mine to the east of me, these people have their electric bill paid by their daughter because they can't afford it. They're both retired. They're on Social Security. They can't afford this area because of their electric bills, and their home's paid for. And they can't afford their electric bills, and they don't live in a huge home. Right. So that's ridiculous. So everybody here in this area, my electric bills have tripled. I have gas heat, not electric heat. And my electric bills were outrageous this last winter. So it's not just one or two of us, it's this entire area. We're subsidizing this cryptocurrency mine.
Can you talk a little bit about the citations and the trial of the noise pollution?
So the citations, my constable, John Shirley, came up with giving them noise citations. And so basically these are like parking tickets. And so every day that their decibel readings are above 85, he issued them a citation. So all totaled, there have been close to approximately 40 citations issued. The initial citations, about 12 or 13 of them, were issued to the plant manager, David Fisher, for disorderly conduct. So those went to pretrial in June. The very following day, Marathon wanted to know if we would let them plea to all except one of these citations. And so the community at large said, no, we want a trial. So Marathon wanted a jury trial. Now, as part of this jury trial, our county attorney, Matt Mills, this is not his forte. He's a commissioner's court county district attorney. He doesn't really do a whole lot of litigious stuff, certainly not like this. And so they weren't very prepared for this. Now, mind you, even if we had won, all that would have meant was paying citations. It wouldn't have meant anything more than that. Now, if we had won, Marathon Digital would have appealed and it would have gone to a higher level of court, and then we would have started the process all over again. But even if we had won and they had paid for those citations, you're only looking at, approximately $6,000. All that would have been is nothing to them. They paid way more than that to have some former district attorneys come down and try the case. So they had a jury of 6 jurors. The jury foreman deals with cryptocurrency. She's got crypto. So she has stock in crypto. And so that was the jury foreman, and nobody saw anything wrong with that. So our county constable was discounted on his decibel readings and his equipment that he uses. Mind you, his equipment is better than what our sheriff's department has, and no sound studies have been done. So recently, Marathon Digital did sound studies. They put their sound testing apparatuses, around this area of the county, and actually did sound testing for, 15 minutes at each site. And so they determined that their sound was fine. Now, in the meantime, all night long, and not just from the Bitcoin mine, from the power plant as well, their decibel readings are in the upper 70s into the low 90s all night long, every night, still to this day. So not a whole lot has changed. So supposedly Matt Mills, our county attorney, is going to try the remainder of these cases. He got trounced by the attorneys for Marathon that came down from Dallas Fort Worth. He got trounced by them. It's David and Goliath. Goliath stomped us, but we're not done. We're still coming.
Yeah, it is really interesting that, Marathon will pull out all the stops. They will just railroad these tiny little communities and municipalities. They just really are flagrant. They really feel like they're above reproach, above the law. I mean, I want folks at home to realize too, 85 decibels is the Texas limit, and that is the highest out of all of the United States. So,
and that's like sleeping with a vacuum cleaner. How many of you sleep with a vacuum cleaner in your bed 24/7? And so this isn't sound that comes and goes. This is sound that's 24/7. It invades my walls of my home. I've got double siding on my home. I've got extra thick walls. So my home is very well insulated. And this sound travels through walls, low decibel, low frequency sound. It travels through walls. It travels through my windows. The first thing I'm aware of when I wake up in the morning is that my ears are buzzing and ringing. Even with the ceiling fan on and going to sleep, all of us now sleep with sound machines or our TVs on and fans on. And one of my neighbors, when you walk into their home, their bedroom, the way the acoustics are, east of this Bitcoin mine, it's like sleeping underneath helicopter rotors where you hear whoop, 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 whoop in their bedroom all night long. When you walk into their kitchen, you can feel their floors vibrating. You can feel the vibration coming up through your feet, up through your legs, and vibrating your entire body. And this is one of my community members that threw a massive clot to his pulmonary vasculature. He's lucky he's alive. Now, how do you suppose that happened? How do you think that clot got loosened up and hit his pulmonary vasculature?
Yeah.
Because he's standing on a railroad track.
Yeah, it's really, it's one thing hearing these stories, but my mother and I went to support y'all at an event, and we stood on your property across the street from the facility for about an hour, and we became viciously nauseous. So it's one thing to hear about this, but it's a whole nother thing to experience it. And a lot of folks will say, oh, you're over exaggerating, or I live nearby and I don't feel it, or I don't hear it. And it's like, well, number one, count yourself lucky, and number two, just believe people when they tell you that they're having a really bad time of things. I don't understand this dismissal that I've seen a lot online. And it's probably people who have a conflict of interest in one way or another, but it's so icky to me, to see people go, oh, it's not that bad. When I have personally experienced it, I would not, and again, a lot of the times people are out there to be in peace and quiet. So we are from the city. We moved out to rural Texas because we wanted peace, because we wanted to be away from the hubbub and noise and traffic. And then that's one of the reasons why I'm so outraged for y'all. I cannot imagine living a peaceful rural life and then this invasion of your peace. And then for your own county judge, Massengill, to literally say, I feel bad for you people, but there's nothing I can do. Can you?
Oh, there's something he does. He invites Marathon to his house, his ranch, for elk chili dinners. So there is something he does. He has Marathon out to eat. and for barbecues. So he does do something.
Yeah, and we have done records requests for Hood County. They are now currently 3 days over the limit, and actually they're months and months over the limit, but that's a whole other can of worms. But I think that we're going to find some interesting things. One of the first things any new members, when they join the National or Texas Coalition, we encourage folks to do records requests, because there probably is information, in Hood County records that's going to shed a lot more light on how this thing got there in the first place. Can you tell us, was there a warning? Did you know it was happening, or did it just appear out of thin air essentially one day?
So when cryptocurrency mine, owned by Compute North and financed by Marathon Digital, first came to Hood County, certainly they were pimping out the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce, said, come on in, the water's fine. And so Commissioner's Court thought what they were giving the okay to was a data center. Well, they never looked into it. They never researched it. And so in they came. So that was in 2021. So they're giving the green light and go ahead for this project to go ahead and start up. Now, nobody looked into it. Nobody researched it. Nobody gave a shit. They just said, come on in, the water's fine. And so my community didn't know anything about this until the noise started up in the spring of 23. And then when it doubled, tripled, quadrupled in the fall of 23, then, we went, what the hell is this? Oh my God, what do we do? And so everybody out here thought, I can't do anything about this by myself. What am I going to do? I'm just, a rural Texan standing here by myself. And so we started gathering up steam and banding together, and we joined the Texas Coalition and the National Coalition, and, spoke to Greenpeace and Earth Justice, and got some of our local politicians involved. Certainly Nanette Samuelson, my commissioner, was involved with this before I started really cranking up the social media on all of this. And John Shirley, my constable, was already starting to formulate plans on how to get community interest and put a number on this problem. And so certainly those two have been instrumental in it. And now we have some winds of change that are happening here in Hood County. So the community in Hood County has become pretty darn empowered. We're tired of this. We're tired of getting stomped on. We're tired of being trampled. And so the winds of change are happening in Hood County. Last Tuesday, or this Tuesday, at the Hood County Executive Committee meeting, Shannon Wolf and the precinct chairs in Hood County passed resolutions that Shannon Wolf developed and that Nanette Samuelson had passed in Commissioner's Court. And so now, it's passed, the local county government. There's no teeth in it, but it's telling Marathon, hey, look, we've had enough of your shit. And we're coming for you.
Yeah. Also, to go back, that whole data center thing. Bitcoin mines are not data centers. They're not data centers, but that is one of the way that they get their foot in the door. They lie to county commissioners and city council members who don't know any better, who don't know the difference. This is why we strongly urge you, if you live anywhere near power infrastructure, electrical infrastructure, always keep your eyes and ears out for new businesses, new data centers that want to come in, because that is one of the myths, the lies, the fibs that Bitcoin miners use to get their foot in the door of unsuspecting municipalities.
And once they're in, like us, we've been struggling at this since I first started talking to you this last December. So we've been on the struggle bus fighting this, picking up steam here and there along the way and trying to help all the community here. And, so I'm super thankful that we found you. I mean, my community is very thankful that we found the Texas Coalition and the National Coalition, because we would be at our wits' end. We wouldn't know what to do about this, not even remotely, if we hadn't found you guys.
And there's strength in numbers, and this is how they have they have proliferated so much throughout the United States, is they go to remote places where there isn't a lot of maybe like national networks of groups. And so that's, I mean, that's why we have to stick together, why we got to find each other. If you live anywhere near a Bitcoin mine, please contact the Texas or the National Coalition. We want to help, we want to support you, but also just knowing that you're not alone in this situation can really make a huge difference, from hopelessness to hopeful. And if you are dealing with this, we cannot begin to tell you how bad we feel for you and how much we want to help. And we will not stop until this industry is held accountable for its crimes against humanity. I mean, it sounds really dramatic, but this is what's happening in Hood County is a humanitarian health crisis. And the fact that our leaders at the top of the state are right this moment to this day touting this as a panacea for the grid, for banking the unbanked, all of these insane claims that they make. I really implore our leaders in Texas to come to Hood County, to go visit the Navarro County facility, ask the folks who live around these facilities how much, they've improved their lives. They haven't. Can you talk a little bit about the jobs? How many jobs does this create?
It hasn't created much of any. Right now, they're putting in more miners over there. So they've got immersion miners and miners with fans on the top of their cargo units that they're putting in over there. So prior to this, they had less than, 30 employees total, all year long. I'm not even sure that they had that. Now that they're expanding over there, there's 173, 176 mining containers over there now. Now that they're expanding, they have construction crews coming in, but these won't be full-time people that are over there. The only thing that they've brought to this community is property taxes. And also, of course, Marathon Digital paid for the 4th of July parade and sponsored the 4th of July fireworks in the county. So they've really done some PR work. They've donated some food to a food bank, and they gave out one scholarship. So they're really doing a lot in the community to help people that aren't anywhere near this mine. So the people that don't live anywhere in this area of the county or the county south of me have absolutely no idea what devious, diabolical people they are. I mean, they're not doing anything to help the communities that are surrounded by this, that are being tortured. There's a lot of impoverished Hispanic people that are on the east side of this barrier. These people can't stand up and speak for themselves. They're fearful from retaliation. And those people over there are absolutely being tortured. This is truly like being a prisoner in a third world country and being tortured 24/7 with loud sound blasting in your ears, no ability to sleep all night long, anxiety, hypertension, everything else. Prisoners are treated better than native Texans are near these mines.
Oh my God, that's going to be a clip. What is your worst fear about this industry? And maybe
I'm afraid that they're going to harm all of the rest of the United States, and there's nothing that we can do about it. And that all of these communities surrounding these areas are going to be harmed and not have any ability to stand up and fight for themselves. I mean, this is not acceptable that you treat Americans this way. This is not acceptable. These people did not ask this. They did not ask for this kind of torture.
Yeah, and pretty much every episode I talk about how anti-American, seditious, treasonous this technology is. I mean, not just its like direct impacts on local communities that want nothing to do with Bitcoin, but the technology, what it's actually facilitating on the blockchain and in the dark web. Like, we should not be tolerating this, much less our elected representatives shilling it like the absolute snake oil salesmen that they are. So when you say that like no American should be treated like this, again, I'm going to bring up the fact that a lot of these companies did not originate in Texas or America for that matter. So it is like, even Texas has a law that agricultural land can't be sold to Chinese nationals, but they rezone it to something else and then they sell it. So a lot of these Bitcoin mines are owned by Chinese nationals in China. So and they're the big winners because they're the manufacturing these machines. They might have outlawed it. They outsource, they outsource the energy consumption that the blockchain uses, but they're ultimately the biggest recipients because they're selling these machines at a huge cost markup to Bitcoin miners.
So Marathon Digital designed their own immersion miners. Now, Marathon Digital across the street doesn't have their own immersion miners that they put in. They purchased them elsewhere. So they weren't any immersion miners that they built and produced themselves and they planted down across the street. They bought them. Now, where did they buy them from?
Yeah. And I mean, the overwhelming majority of these machines are called ASICs, application specific integrated circuits, which is another thing that we're going to bring up every episode, is that these machines cannot be used for anything else but guessing and throwing away numbers, hoping to hit the Bitcoin lottery. That is all they can be used for. Actual data centers and data servers are general purpose. They can be used for all kinds of stuff. They run software. Bitcoin miners use, like, one of these machines use the equivalent of power that a house uses in a day. They're like incredibly energy intensive, but they don't do anything but guess and throw away numbers. So,
and let's talk about the Texas state grid. Our electrical grid is precarious, especially in 110-degree heat like we have today. And so then you throw a minor hurricane coming in off of the Gulf of Mexico and all of the grid going out down around the Houston area and people dying down there and the grid being stressed. And what do the cryptocurrency miners do in the state of Texas? Not a damn thing. Did they scale back when Hurricane Beryl came in and a lot of the grid south of us went out? No, they did not. They were cranking away just like they do every other day of the week when there were Texans south of us in Houston dying.
Yes, and that is why I say that they are endangering 31 million Texans' lives. And this is not hyperbole. They are destabilizing the grid. We know it to be true. This is beyond a doubt. This is not conjecture. There was a 12-hour hearing on the grid on June 12th, that 2024, this year, that talked about the enormous, incredible, huge burden that this industry is putting on the grid. And again, I ask the Texas Blockchain Council, who is the lobbying group for Texas miners, how many Texans are actually playing with Bitcoin? So every Texan is under the grid's, specter of the last crash. Every Texan every energy consumer is paying their electricity bills, their tax bills. And yet, how many actual Texans are playing with Bitcoin? I can tell you it's very, very, very small out of the 31 million Texans.
And they're gambling. They're gambling with it.
And that's like a whole nother can of worms. I mean, this stuff is fraudulent. It's extremely manipulated. Bitcoin's true value is not $60,000 or $50,000, whatever it is. Like that. I mean, it just layers upon layers of harm, malice, avarice, greed, addiction, and really dark crimes. Just some of the worst people doing the worst things for the worst reason. And why on earth are Texans subsidizing, underwriting this? Why are we giving our precious water to this industry when it is giving us nothing in return? It's endangering our lives in return.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. If you could wave a magic wand and everyone in America knew something about Bitcoin mining, what would it be?
How horribly they've harmed this community, how much harm comes of this. And whatever you can do, stop this before it comes to you. And it could come to all of us. You in Navarro County and us in Hood County, we're setting precedents in the state of Texas battling this, but we certainly are not alone. There are so many states that are battling this, that are in various stages of this battle, and their communities are being horrendously harmed as well. This is not a harm-free industry, not remotely.
Yeah, they're not contributing positively there is a mountain of negative externalities. When we talk about water, there's direct water use and there's indirect water use. So every kilowatt of energy that they consume has a water footprint on top of it. So not just the direct water that they're wasting to cool these machines so they don't blow up and catch fire, but also all of the energy, the incredible amount of energy that they're using took a lot of water to extract, refine, transport, and burn. So, I mean, it's so crazy to me that where you are, Hood County is on Lake Granbury, and Marathon is powered by a steam-powered gas plant. So even directly, like they're using steam to power to this power plant to produce methane, and that's going straight. 25% of Marathon of Wolf Hollow 2, the power plant connected to Marathon, a full 25% of the energy produced by Wolf Hollow goes directly to the Bitcoin mine, not to
Actually, it's more than that. It's a third of it. A third of the power produced from Wolf Hollow goes to the cryptocurrency mine. And so above the noise and all of that, now we've got increased air pollution in this area. So here's this community that's already tremendously harmed and tremendously sick. So this community is super compromised. And now we have more air pollution also. And you want to up the air pollution even more than where we are now. And so it's already doubled in the last 2 years. You want to put in another gas turbine plant to harm this community that's already so fragile as it is. This is ridiculous. This is like utter harming people on purpose without any care or concern in the world for the harm that you're inflicting on this community.
Yeah, and that is why I say with confidence that this industry is populated by sociopaths, because we can look these folks in the eye, tell them the incredible amount of harm, all of the negative externalities, how much they are endangering people's lives, and they will literally tell you, you're just jealous that you didn't buy in earlier, or you don't understand. Have fun staying poor. Have fun staying poor is a literal catchphrase that these guys use. They are sociopaths. They do not care as long as it's a get rich quick scheme. There is a lot of gambling addiction in this industry as well. Like, that's not being funny, like it's true. And so there really is like this empathy deficit where we can, and that's why we need regulation, because they're never going to do the right thing.
Nope. And let's talk about Marathon doing their poverty immersion experience here at our conference center in Hood County. So you could go in and experience poverty. Now, how about you come in and experience what it's like to live near one of these Bitcoin mines? And experience what my community is going through. Come experience that.
That might be a fun little art installation we should think about doing. I had talked about when we first started the Concerned Citizens locally here, setting up big speakers outside City Hall and just like running Bitcoin mining noise. So that might be something, maybe a little art collaboration we think about.
So the same group of politicians here in Hood County that are shielding Marathon Digital from this community going after them, the same group of politicians have also signed that they don't want any more air emissions coming off of this gas power plant, that they don't want to harm the county anymore with any more air pollution. So what you just did as politicians is you just slapped Marathon's landlord, Constellation Energy, with going, hey, we don't want air pollution, but you're okay with everything Marathon Digital does to us. That's okay. But no more air pollution from the gas power plant. Mind you, that gas power plant wouldn't be having a problem if Marathon Digital wasn't plugged in.
Right.
You talk about hypocrites. Oh my God. The county judge, Judge Massengill, the mayor of Granbury, there's a bunch of others. You guys are hypocrites. You're shielding Marathon, but you're going after their landlord as bad actors. All of you guys are bad actors.
Yeah, and I want to take it back real quick since you mentioned Granbury. That is also a very common thing for these industries to do, is to get in and they join the Chamber of Commerce immediately. They start throwing money around the community, and this is called reputation laundering. It's a way for them to kind of whitewash all the really bad stuff they're doing. Over there, they call where your area is like the stepchildren of the county. I've heard a couple folks talk about that. Can you talk about maybe the more affluent areas that are being affected by this? And maybe did that have a little bit to do with how y'all got so much national attention as well?
I don't really know. I think that the national attention really came from Texas Coalition Against Crypto Mining and the National Coalition when we affiliated with you guys. Certainly some of the affluent country club developments in this area are being hit by this noise. When this noise hits this river basin, it propels itself along. It's like a megaphone effect. So instead of dissipating as it hits this water, it picks up steam and it's like a tidal wave. And so these other side of the lake, 5 miles away, these people, half of this community, one community has approximately 7,800 residents. Half of that community is impacted by this Bitcoin noise. So they can't sell their country club homes because they have to disclose all of this noise. There are several other communities that are north of me and south of me that are gated communities that have the same problems going on. And so they're impacted by it as well. And even these communities haven't gotten any recognition from, say, our Senator Brian Birdwell at all. And so even some of the more affluent people in this county can't get Brian Birdwell's attention and recognition that there is a problem. That would be because Judge Ron Massengill has Birdwell's ear. That's why that's happening.
Gotcha. If there's one person you could talk to about Bitcoin mining, who would it be?
God, who would listen? It sure isn't anybody in state politics here in Texas. Would the president listen? Does he care? I mean, who would listen that would care?
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you keep fighting?
Because giving up is not an option for my community. I'm not going to give up. I want to be able to say that I've done everything I can for all of these people that are being impacted by this here, especially all of the people that aren't able to stand up for themselves. So I'm going to keep coming. I'm not going to stop coming. I may get knocked down a day or two, but I'm going to still keep coming for you. This is redneck warfare. I'm coming for you.
And lastly, what gives you hope?
People like you, National Coalition, Earth Justice, Greenpeace, all of my local politicians. One of my precinct chairs told me, I said, I'm at the point where I'm drained by this, and I'm tired, and I'm ready to, file a lawsuit. And, one lawyer told me in order to represent me, I have to sit down and shut up. And so I told my precinct chair, I said, I'm at that point, now I've got permanent hearing loss, and it's devastating. It'll never come back. And it's nothing compared to what some of these folks are going through. And she said, we will pick you up and hold you up. We will hold each other up. And so what a great group of people that have surrounded this cause and this issue. People like you and people like some of the politicians in this area and the community in this area, and they have hope. One of my community members, I told him I was thinking about stepping down to file lawsuits. He said, "You can't." He goes, "You're our only hope. We don't have any hope. We're just poor trash here in this end of the county, and nobody cares about us." He said, "But you do. And you won't stand down. You'll keep standing up and fighting." And so it's people like that, like Tom Weeks, that have given me hope, because we're helping each other now. This same man kept his gate locked, wouldn't let anybody come up to his home, didn't want to talk to any neighbors or anybody in the community. Now this man has had a change of heart. He keeps his gate open and unlocked, and you are always welcome at his home. So he has such a renewed sense of community, he's given me hope.
That's beautiful. Yeah, solidarity. I mean that, and one day at a time, sometimes it can feel pretty hopeless, but on a, things can change on a dime. And I know that, I mean, just when they first announced in our town that they were building the world's largest Bitcoin mine, that was in April, and in June crypto crashed, so it delayed the project a lot. And any day now Bitcoin can just completely implode. That is a real possibility. And
I would love to help them.
yeah,
I would love
yeah.
to
I
help
mean,
them
I think
explode.
that's one thing that keeps me hopeful is I know, that this is the literal definition of unsustainable. It's a failing business. Like, they do not make a lot of profit. The C-suite makes a lot of profit by selling stocks, but the actual businesses are incredibly unsustainable. And the more people who understand what Bitcoin mining truly is, once you take off all the illusion and mythology and talking points and bullshit, once you plainly state in plain English what Bitcoin mining is, they're guessing and throwing away numbers. They're using a mid-sized country's worth of energy and water for a lottery that only a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of humans on the entire world are using it. Every time a new person understands what Bitcoin mining is, we become stronger, our group becomes wider, our coalition becomes more powerful. So the National Coalition is working, to outreach to policymakers and legislators and even candidates to get ahead of, because, we can't, again, ignore the elephant in the room. These guys are spending as much money as the pharmaceutical industry right now this year to win, influence, and buy our politicians. So it's really important that beyond these conversations, we actually contact and talk to our representatives. And Cheryl, I know you've done so much work on that in your
All
local
of us
and
have.
state legislature.
Everybody has here.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's huge because they have to hear it. If they're only hearing what the Bitcoin miners and the bros are saying, and they're only getting money from them, at the end of the day, they're not the ones going into the ballot booth in November. We are. And we need to make that very clear, politicians.
For those of us in the county that have voted, and for Abbott before and Cruz before, we won't now. We won't now. We've been stomped into the ground. We won't be voting for them again.
I've seen that online. Again, our group is nonpartisan, but we shout out the folks who are protecting the public, and we name and shame those who are supporting this incredibly wasteful, destructive, insane industry. And it kind of makes me, this kind of makes me a little hopeful, is that people can change their mind. Like, my mom said she's not voting for Ted Cruz again because he's Bitcoin, because he's such a huge advocate for this. They need to listen to their constituents. The overwhelming majority of Americans and Texans who have heard about crypto and Bitcoin don't even trust it. This is not something that we're clamoring for. The general public knows this is a scam. And then there's folks like us who know that it's not just a scam, but it's like incredibly harmful to local folks and the planet at large. And so the second that they start hearing more from us than from the lobby, or they start losing some seats because of it. That's what's really, I think, it's going to make a big impact. And also just the grid, that June 12th hearing on the grid, we know that Bitcoin is putting a huge burden on the Texas grid, and it's dangerous. And how much longer are we going to allow this to proliferate before we start putting some regulations on it? And I think that's coming.
When Hurricane Beryl came up the Gulf of Mexico, it wasn't even a strong hurricane. It was a Category 1. There shouldn't have been any reason that the grid in Texas went down.
Yeah.
And here you had all of these people that died that didn't have to die.
Yeah.
They didn't have to die. But how many crypto mines do we have in the state of Texas? 30, 34?
There's no telling, honestly.
No, and they don't ramp down
that information from being made public.
They don't ramp down, and they are not obligated by law at all to ramp down when the Texas grid is having problems. Now they can ramp down and sell their energy back to the grid at a premium rate, which we subsidize.
Right.
Now they can, but they don't. They don't unless it's profitable for them to do so. Now, that by being profitable, does that mean human lives? No, that doesn't mean human lives. That means money. That human lives don't matter.
Yes. And
not here.
Yeah. And I also point out Riot Platforms made 125 million during Winter Storm Uri when hundreds of our fellow Texans died. They made a killing.
Yep.
This industry is parasitic. They are inserting themselves between Texas energy consumers and the grid, and they're gouging us, and they're endangering our lives by destabilizing the grid. And
they're not stabilizing. They're not stabilizing the grid. They're stabilizing their wallets.
Right. Yeah.
They're not stabilizing our grid.
Yeah. So anytime you hear a crypto bro say something about stabilizing the grid or advancing renewables or any of these really stupid talking points, just send them to this podcast or to our interview with Ed Hers, who's a University of Houston energy fellow. If you actually talk to Texans or energy experts, they will tell you it is not stabilizing the grid. And if they say that it is stabilizing the grid, they were probably paid by the industry to say that.
You know, we've had multiple incidences here where we've had thunderstorms that have taken out power in this area, and cold weather that's taken out power in this area. And every time we have a big cold front or a big heat wave come through, you know, the power plant near us blows valves when they've never blown valves before. And then all of us in this community surrounding this Bitcoin mine, we have no power, but by God, that Bitcoin mine is running.
Yeah. And we've heard the same thing in Navarro County, that folks will be out of power, but the Bitcoin mine is lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yep. That's exactly how it is here as well. We had storms come through last month that took out power half the evening to people on the east barrier of this complex. And so they had no power at all. And this cryptocurrency mine was churning away.
Yeah. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for this conversation. We're going to have to do a follow-up on, we know that there's more stuff coming down the pike that we can't even talk about right now. So is there anywhere, do you want to tell folks where they can find you? We're definitely going to, we didn't even talk about the Time Magazine article, but we will definitely link that in the show notes. That is a must watch. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Bitcoin noise, Hood County. I hate crypto.
Same.
Thank you, Jackie.
You bet.
Bye.
Alrighty, folks, that was another episode of the Proof of Waste podcast. Today, our guest was Cheryl Shadden. She lives across the street from a 300 megawatt facility owned by Marathon Digital. And as usual, you guys contact your representatives. Tell them you do not want Bitcoin mining in your county, in your state, in your country. We got to stop this. We got to let them know that if they are pro crypto, we are not going to vote for them. I think that's one of the things that's going to put this to bed. So thanks for joining us. If anything you saw today makes you want to act, we need your help. Join us. Fill out the form below, and we'll get you onboarded into the National Coalition Against Crypto Mining. Thank you so much for watching.